Let's freaking go. The LSU defense steps up after halftime and pitches a shutout. Is Garrett Nussmeier the best quarterback in the SEC? And does LSU really have an outside shot of making a backdoor run to the college football playoff? That is all coming up today. Plus, the big question, are LSU Tiger fans who actually go to the games, do they leave too early? It is a huge debate. I made a few phone calls before we got started today of a few people who were actually there. We have to discuss this civilly. That's all coming up, baby. Let's go.
It's Power Hour LSU.
PHL, extra little bit of swag, an extra little bit of taste.
Yeah. Man, I'm headed to the field. Terror of the tiger, I'ma always keep it real. Everything gon' get devoured, it's the power. LSU with Carter, it's the power. LSU with Carter, man, I'm headed to the field. Terror of the tiger, I'ma always keep it real. Everything gon' get devoured, it's the power. LSU with Carter, it's the power. LSU with Carter, man, I'm headed to the field.
So we'll get to everything you need to know about the actual conditions in Tiger Stadium, but let's give Brian Kelly a lot of credit. That was the best half of football we played all year long when we really needed it. Okay, 17-17 versus an inferior team. Obviously, I was heavily on the UCLA side of things, covering the spread. They did so. You thought for a second LSU was going to backdoor it, but the bottom line is LSU has another elite quarterback. And you can even go so far as saying he is the third, arguably, best quarterback of the modern era. Now, it's a little early, obviously, with Garrett Nussmeier. Will he jump Jay Russ? Will he jump Matt Flynn? Will he jump Zach Mettenberger? We do know this. He is well on his way. Now, are there a lot of things that Garrett Nussmeier does that perturbs me? Yes. But today, he did not turn the football over. Today, for another game, he did not take a sack. And for another game, he didn't run. And the LSU offense was still phenomenal. I feel this game's MVP, though, is not Garrett Nussmeier. We freaking know Garrett Nussmeier is really good at tackle football. But we don't know if Joe Sloan is a good play caller yet or not. It's still very early. We don't want to just take a Wisconsin bowl game as proof that he is a good play caller. This was an excellent called game from Joe Sloan, okay? Our best players failed us in the first half, okay? Will Campbell with a false start penalty. We had some missed blocks from some other really good offensive linemen that we have. We had the drop from Kyron Lacey. We had good run calls. We had a lot better pass calls. I need to go back and take a look at the play action pass rate. There wasn't really a whole lot of play action, which perturbs me, but I might be totally wrong on that. Joe Sloan was great today. He was absolutely positively great. Now, will he continue to be great? I don't know. I would really like, though, for someone to ask Brian Kelly either today or on Monday what he thought of Joe Sloan. This was an amazingly called game by Joe, okay? You saw Caleb Jackson get some very good reps in the second half. That's really big for his confidence. We know Caden Durham's good. Josh Williams was the go-to back on the ground today. So give Josh a lot of credit, pounding it in there, and then Caleb got kind of explosive in the second half of this game. And then, of course, Caden Durham did what we know he can do and what he showed last week versus the South Carolina Gamecocks. So let's take a look at the final numbers here. Obviously, 454, it's not a whole lot of yards, but of course, LSU was in kind of a weird spot towards the end of the game where they kind of took the foot off the gas pedal, okay? The big thing that we look for, yard per play battle. LSU 6.3 yards per play. That's very good. It's not elite, but it's very good. That is a college football playoff level team, 6.3 yards per play. And UCLA averaged 5.1, right? So we'll talk more about the defense in just a second. But the first stat that we always look for outside of course, the final score, who won the yard per play battle. One other thing that I give LSU's defense a lot of credit for is their third down defense got a lot better. They got a lot better. Remember, in the first half, they were 4 for 7. In theory, they were actually 5 for 8 if you add on the fourth downs. But in the second half of this game, they were 1 for 5 on third down. So LSU did a really good job getting off the field. I thought Deshaun Foster, who is just not a great head coaching hire by any metric, we'll see how he actually turns out. He made some really bad punt decisions in the second half of this game. And I don't know if this game is different if he goes for it on 4th and 3 and actually gets it. That punt was stupid because you don't want to give Garrett Nussmeier the football back when Ethan Garbers was playing as well as he was. And Ethan Garbers, for the most part, tore us up, right? But this LSU defense, 295 total yards versus UCLA. Give the secondary and the linebackers a lot of credit. Now, I flamed them at halftime, and I felt like that was deservingly so, but they pitched a shutout. It doesn't matter how you cut it. Doesn't matter if you say they have bad punt decisions or good punt decisions or bad calls versus good calls. Obviously, we got bailed out in a major way when we were up by 7, and they had a second-level cut block penalty when they ran the football right down our gut for a nice gain. That cut block, of course, allowed that play to get broken, but at the same time, it pushed UCLA back. That was a self-inflicted wound, and UCLA just wasn't disciplined enough in the second half to pull off what would have been the biggest Power 4 upset. It wouldn't have been the biggest P4 upset of the day. Obviously, North Carolina wiping the floor, getting James Madison getting their asses kicked by North Carolina, or the other way around. But this would have been a pretty shocking upset in the SEC. This game was very close, and we got very lucky in the second half that UCLA made some self-inflicted wounds, but at the same time, give the LSU offense a whole lot of credit. But honestly, this game was a Garrett Nussmeier, Joe Sloan masterpiece, okay? I thought Garrett had a few extra misses in the first half than we would like to think, but overall, when you take a look at his overall performance in this game, it was fantastic. 32 of 44, 352, 3 touchdowns. And one thing I will say, I know it doesn't look pretty, but the run game was slightly more effective. I know 28 carries for 102, 1 touchdown, and a 3.6 yard per carry average doesn't really look that great. We obviously don't want to hand the football off to Caleb Jackson and Caden Durham for a total of 12 times, and they not have a rush for over 8 yards. That's unacceptable. The run game, though, that shows you the sad state of the LSU running game. Outside of Caden Durham, we've not had a special performance. I thought Josh overall, though, was really good today. It was an ugly performance, but we will take it. Now, obviously, if you're a PHL patron, you know this. You're going to get player grades all throughout the evening. I'll probably have my player grades posted. I already started working on them before I started this live stream. You'll get those posted later on tonight. I thought Mason Taylor was spectacular. Aaron Anderson continues to play well. CJ Daniels continues to play well. And then obviously Kyron Lacey, not his best game, okay? But he did draw a pass interference penalty after the drop in the red zone, which eventually led to Josh Williams getting into the end zone. So overall, good stuff. You take the Kyle Parker touchdown as well. That was a really good route by Kyle, but a better throw from Garrett Nussmeier. You know, I, in my free time, sit down and watch a lot of Matthew Stafford. He's one of my favorite quarterbacks. And the reason why I like Matthew Stafford so much is because outside of Calvin Johnson, you know, he has had so many throws in his career that it feels like the throw catches the receiver instead of the receiver catches the throw. And Garrett Nussmeier had one of those Stafford kind of throws to Kyle Parker today. There really wasn't that much separation. The ball was just thrown so good that Kyle Parker had no choice but to catch it, if that makes sense. And that is the level of play Garrett Nussmeier is playing right now, okay? It is an unreal level. Is it a Jaden or Burrow level? No, because those are the two best statistical seasons we've ever seen at the quarterback position in the modern era of Heisman Trophy winners. But Garrett has not played a bad game yet, y'all. He has not played a bad game. The South Carolina film showed a lot of mistakes, a lot of panicking, a lot of picks. But, y'all, he is playing at a ridiculous, ridiculous, ridiculous level. Now, do I think Garrett Nussmeier was a game MVP? Well, yeah, of course, he's a quarterback. But if you take that out of the equation, Braden Swinson and Savion Jones deserve a lot of credit. Swinson was better today, but they were both, honestly, you could make a case they were the two best players on the field for us today. They made so many plays for us, and they deserve game balls, both of them. Okay. Greg Penn led us in tackles. Whit Weeks also with 7 tackles today. I thought Whit had a better overall performance. I thought Perk was having a tough day. And to add injury to insult, he's hurt. So we don't know how hurt he is, right? That was a pretty big hit he took after the tackle was broken. He's a supremely talented player. It's going to be interesting to see how they fill in for him. I also thought Jair Brown's tackle on the 3rd down screen was pretty big in the second half of this game as well. So I thought Jair Brown did some good things. It was good to see JVR Suggs get a mop-up duty sack there. Dominic McKinley, holy crap. The one play he did make was unfreaking believably incredible. It's what we know he can do, which is bull rush and bully people out of their own way. And he did that versus a grown man at the offensive line position. Thought Deshaun Spears did some good things. Major Burns had a Major Burnsy kind of game, some ups and downs. And I also thought Ashton Stamps, even though he got beat on that goal ball, he was illegally touched on the head, and he did deflect it. It was just a lucky bounce. So really, really, really good game overall for LSU. I mean, I understand it wasn't pretty, but you ended up winning it by triple digits. Okay. So victory for LSU. Okay. Let's go to Mike, who was at the game. All right. We're going to talk about the Heat. We will. And then we'll get into a few Brian Kelly comments. Okay. Chase will talk about how good the SEC or the LSU defensive ends are. I don't know if we're better than Georgia. I mean, Georgia's ends are ridiculous, but you could say that every year. I will say these two have exceeded expectations, and I'm still going to continue what I've said from halftime. Kevin Peoples deserves flowers for what he's done to this defensive end room. Like, it is not even close how much better of a coach he's been than everybody else on the staff. Okay. And that's not really an insult to everyone else. Obviously, I was very, I've given Joe Sloan a lot of credit. I'm going to give Blake Baker a lot of credit for pitching a shutout in the second half. But all of these guys deserve lots of flowers. Okay. I waited to start the post-game live stream because I did hop on a few phone calls of people who are at the game. I wasn't even able to talk to my own parents. But I wanted to be well-versed because I didn't want to give a hot take on something that I am hypocritical of talking about, right? Which is fans in the stands, okay? This is something that has been discussed privately in our Discord for a long time, all right? And I always say, join our PHL Patreon so you can get in the Discord and be a part of very unfiltered but civil conversations, okay? The fans left. Now, I understand it is not a pretty look when the venue of all venues, Tiger Stadium, has a half empty stadium. And I knew this was going to be the big topic because, well, the game got boring in the second half, but fans had already left. So I want to show you this. And I also searched long and wide. I hate when people share, and you should always be skeptical of this, all right? I hate when people share video of, or they share a photo of a crowd at the beginning of the third quarter. That's the worst time to show it. Concession lines at well-attended games suck. Okay, so people are going to miss the beginning of the third quarter. Don't show me a beginning of the third quarter or beginning of the fourth quarter or beginning of any quarter still shot. Okay, show it to me with 7 minutes left to go in the third quarter. So I want to show you this video, and I'm going to let you be the judge of the crowd at Tiger Stadium. Okay. And I want you to tell me the difference. All right. This looks like it's well attended on this side of the stadium where there's this thing called shade. Okay. I got to turn the volume down so I don't get demonetized. Okay. There is a lot of shade on this side. And look, it could just be the angle because we can't really see if there's empty splotches. It looks like there are some empty splotches there. But then you show the other side and it's empty. Okay. Y'all, it's 100 degrees. It is 100 freaking degrees. All right. 100 degrees is very, very, very hot. Now, I understand it's Tiger Stadium. It's one game, but you also got to factor in the walk that everyone had to have to get into the stadium. It's not only the walk to the stadium, it's the upward climb that you have to walk to get to your seats. Everybody that walks into Tiger Stadium has some variation of an upward climb, whether you're going up hills or whatever. You're getting your ass burnt up, okay? And this is more than half of the stadium, okay? Y'all, it's too hot. I understand I sound like a BA for saying it's too hot. Would I still be at the game? Yes, but I'm 35 and healthy. And like I said before the game, okay, at the Arkansas game last year, I almost passed out. My wife couldn't find me. I was sitting down, and I don't remember the fan's name. He was a PHLer, and he did send me an email afterwards. I need to go look him up because I don't thank him enough. I know I sent him a card or something like that in the mail. I don't thank him enough for giving me a bottle of water to save me because I didn't have my wallet. My wife had my wallet, and she had walked somewhere else, and she couldn't find me. Okay, and he bought me a bottle of water. Y'all, there's people vomiting. It can get really hot. Okay, so I understand I should pile on LSU fans. One group I'm a little less sympathetic to is the students. You are younger. Okay, you also, as a student, doesn't have to deal with any traffic. If you're a student, you're more than likely living in Baton Rouge. Okay, you're staying up late anyway. Keep your asses in the seats. But the old folks who are driving in from Mandeville and they know they got a 3-hour drive home, that you're driving in from Ruston and all that stuff, y'all, we have got to be sympathetic. It's hot as hell. It is hot as hell. Okay. Now, should more fans tough it out? Yes, more fans should tough it out. If you're able to tough it out, tough it out. It's 100 degrees. Now, we can get into a debate over, well, you shouldn't play early games in Louisiana. Well, I also push back against that because the temperature for Oklahoma State and Utah, this is Oklahoma. Now, Oklahoma gets hot. I don't know if it gets hotter than Louisiana. I doubt it. Oklahoma's temperatures for Oklahoma, Utah today is in the high 90s. Everybody's dealing with hot temperatures. Okay. It is what it is at this point. Okay. I don't really want to get into that type of debate, but it's going to be a huge discussion point because the optics looked bad. It looked really bad. Now, let's go to Sibley, our first super chatter. Let's go. Carter, the speed of DBs can cover for mistakes, which are made frequently. Does LSU DBs have speed to cover mistakes? Hats off to your cousin Eric Bieniemy for excellent play calling. A good New Orleans guy. So Eric Bieniemy, of course, is from New Orleans and has had a very successful career. Good for him. He was really good. This was his best game at UCLA. First thing I'll say is I wouldn't overreact to some of the LSU defensive issues for plays where UCLA just went out there and made plays. The Ethan Garbers touchdown before halftime was spectacular. That was a spectacular play. It's just one of those things, right? They make plays too. The issue was the wide open touchdown on the play before to Flores, where Savion Jones drew the holding call. I went crazy at halftime over not being able to stop pre-snap motion. Anytime a team does pre-snap motion, we figure it out. Okay. All right. Or we can't figure it out. UCLA's offense had some dudes. They had a few dudes. Okay. Bieniemy also called a really good game. With that said, we struggle organizationally getting people where they need to get to make football plays. All right. We've got to figure this out. And what I'm thinking is, are we lacking a talisman? Are we lacking a true leader back there that can get us aligned properly, that can communicate things, right? So this is what I would ask everybody here. The LSU defense is a lot better than the Madhouse defense, but that's really not saying a lot. We still held them to under 300 yards, and the first half was bad, and the second half was very good. And what I like to do to increase sample sizes of seasons, I do like to break games up into halves. Okay, so instead of looking at a game as a game, I look at a game as two different games, right? And the first half and the second half of games, as we all know, can be drastically different. Okay. Obviously, the LSU defense was really good in the second half, but in the first half, they were bad. All right. We had a really, really, really bad half. Now, how much of our bad defensive play in the first half have to do with us? A lot of it. A lot of it. Running backs in the flats wide open. Us not communicating man coverage assignments. Okay. It's a problem. It's a major problem, and we cannot figure it out. Could it be that we were too hot and we couldn't concentrate in the heat? I don't know. So we have to look at this and be brutally honest with this LSU defense. How good are they? What we do know for certain that we're not as bad as we were defensively last year, because if we were, they would have kept scoring. We have something here with Blake Baker and the staff that he has assembled. Okay. However, and this is a big however, okay, who are our best players? Who are the best players? And I saw Ali Mom bring this up earlier about Harold Perkins. If he is out for some time, which more than likely he will not play next week, okay? As many of you know, I'll pull up the LSU schedule here. There's no way that LSU, even if Perk is fully healthy, there is no way, especially considering a few years ago in Tiger Stadium, he single-handedly put Ole Miss away. There's no way they're going to rush him back versus South Alabama, okay? Who are our best guys? Could we be in a position where next week versus South Alabama, we could see if someone else could play the Harold Perkins role? Okay. Now, let's go to Randy. He's coming in hot on Facebook. He's got a snake too. Dudes, UCLA has dudes on offense. Hawaii held them to 16. Okay, they did. I'll give you that. First game of the season, though. I mean, brand new team. Lots of transfers. Come on. We're always patient, especially, first games with a brand new coach, all new things. You're going to Honolulu. You got to get, I'll give them a pass. Now, this next game versus Indiana is why I told everyone, and Randy, you might not have seen me earlier in the week, they actually drove the football in the Indiana game. They just couldn't finish drives. All right. That's why I was higher on them leading into the week, and why, I took UCLA plus the points. But to your point, I mean, I'm not saying that they are the Mike March Rams. I'm not saying they're the greatest show on turf. But if you actually look at their recruiting ranking and the overall production that some of their receivers had in previous stops, they were good players. Rico Flores was a productive, true freshman at Notre Dame, and we know how bad those offenses have been under Marcus Freeman at Notre Dame. J. Michael Sturdivant had 65 catches as a redshirt freshman at Cal and had a really good season last year with UCLA with weird quarterback situations. Their tight ends were good, at least in my tape viewing. The running backs were fine. Okay. I'm not sitting here and telling you that they had like dudes, like we'll play versus Ole Miss here in a few weeks, but they had some dudes. I mean, they have some playmakers. Ethan Garbers is a year 4 quarterback who has 4 years of starting experience. So you're all right, right? You're right in pushing back, but I don't think that they were pushovers by any stretch of the imagination. There's actually a few receivers that would have played last week for South Carolina, if that makes sense, and they lit us up. Okay. Now, I get starting to get a few extra texts from people that are actually at the game. Pete Cannizzaro, who I'm pretty sure goes to every game, he said this was the hottest game he's ever been to. Okay. This was the hottest game he has ever been to. Actually, I've gotten a few texts from that. This was the hottest game. Now, I think Pete was there for LSU Auburn. There will never be a hotter game than LSU Auburn, the Leonard Fournette game. That was hot. That was hot. But enough about the heat. Okay. Let's see here. Brian Kelly's at the podium now. When we get video, I'll play some BK video. Brian Kelly has said the word maddening a lot. Okay. Ramos with another clutch fourth quarter field goal. I didn't show Jordan Gilbert any love. He got himself an interception in this game as well. Thanks again to Braden Swinson and Savion Jones with a lot of pressure. Good for Jordan Gilbert for his confidence. I thought he did. Jordan's UCLA game was I'd say UCLA. The USC game was bad. And since then, he's actually been pretty solid. Okay? He's actually been pretty solid. LSU overcame UCLA in global warming. They said it's not real. Let's go to Go Fly, who's been very generous lately. I really appreciate you. If West is out and Perk, who is next up in linebacker? Kalaj Cobbins. It would not be Kalaj Cobbins because he is, I don't know if he's getting work as an off-ball linebacker. I think he's getting work more so as an end. Okay. So it could honestly be quite a few people. I mean, do you go to Devon Keys? I mean, that's a deeper cut. Honestly, once again, I am extremely biased in saying this. Okay. Xavier Debo-Atkins. Let's see what he's got. I know he's got the speed. Okay. I know he's got the speed. Let's go to base pill clips. I can't watch any more Burns or Ryan. They're lost 24/7 on the field. And then also, here's something else I would say about this based pill clips. All right. This is what I would say to the Sage Ryan and Major Burns defenders. Okay. Let's take a look at the LSU players who have played a lot of snaps on multiple bad LSU defenses now. All right. Once again, you give LSU's defense a lot of credit shutting it out in the second half. All right. And we can increase the sample to the A&M and Georgia games from the SEC Championship 2022 year. Okay. And guys that have played a lot of snaps, okay, on all of those defenses are Savion Jones, Major Burns, Sage Ryan, Harold Perkins, and who else? You know, you can make a case for Whit Weeks. Greg Penn has played a lot on all of those teams. Witt wasn't there for that first 2022. And then you got to start asking yourself, well, these guys are the constants. These are the guys that have been on all the defenses. Maybe it's him. Well, we know it's not Savion Jones because he's playing at an All-American level right now. I would say Jones is probably playing at an all SEC level, and Braden Swinson would be first-team All-American right now. Maybe second team or third team. I don't know. I'd have to look at every single defensive end's production. Okay. Let's go to show enough. Carter, which side of the ball was more consistent overall? Offense, because they put up 17 points in the first quarter, or first half, and they put up 17 points in the second. LSU offense was very good today. Were they elite? No. 495 yards is very good. It's not elite, right? Very, very, very good. Okay. So, to that point, I do think there are a few switches I would make with the LSU defense. And I think this week is the time to experiment with stuff. All right. So apparently, Missouri wins. Vanderbilt loses. They've already done that, Darian. They've already done that. And it's not necessarily Harold, and it gets into semantics here. It's not Harold Perkins moving to star. It's him playing the Sam in a 4-3, which is different, but it's still kind of sort of the same thing. Okay. Once again, imbalanced SEC schedules still give Missouri a pretty clear path to the playoff. I mean, they barely beat Boston College last week, who's not bad. That's crazy. So Tyler messaged me. He said, it's up there with Auburn 2015 and App State in 2008. Yes, Appalachian State in 2008 was horrible. It was the sunshine before the storm in many ways. Okay. Let's see here. All right, so this is another fan, Ashley. He said people were passing out all over. God. Mason Taylor passed Richard Dixon for the all-time leader in receiving yards for a tight end, 990 yards. And Mason goes over 1,000, the first ever tight end at LSU. And that's what's crazy about LSU. If you look offensively, that's never really been a position that they've been known for. Now, they've had really good tight ends, okay? But Mason, I know he has had some rough blocking snaps. I know he's had some rough drops. But y'all, he plays a ridiculous amount of snaps. All right. And when you factor in, he has played a ridiculous amount of snaps over a 3-year period while also, knock on wood, not getting hurt. Okay. So on top of playing all these snaps, he's not missed a game. He missed Mississippi State last year, but he dressed out. If they absolutely needed him to go, he would have gone. Now, the number one question that we've gotten on this live stream is, where was Chris Hilton? So Brian Kelly mentioned Chris Hilton, but I'm going to tell you what really happened. right after this. Book your 360 spin booth experience today with Zion Imaging. Yes, that's my buddy Jaron Thomas who started this venture years ago. And look at the smiles on these faces. This state-of-the-art photo booth is so incredible. I work in the wedding and event industry, and anytime I see a 360 photo booth, it takes your event, whether it's a reunion, a wedding, a conference, no matter what it is, it takes it to another level. Give them a follow on Facebook. Book them today. There is a special deal going on now where you can get up to 40% off. This is all the info. Give them a call today, 318-469-4265, or go to Zion Imaging. That's XYAN Imaging.com. Oh, baby. Home is where the heart is, and our friends at NOPOD Roofing really takes that to heart. 504-810-8744. Give them a call today for all of your roofing needs. And one of my favorite things about NOPOD Roofing is their versatility. They not only do roofing, they do siding, they do painting, they do tree removal, fencing, anything home improvement. Our friends at NOPOD will get you straight. Give them a call today at 504-810-8744 and let them know PHL and Carter the Power sent you. We never overpromise and always over-deliver with NOPOD, baby. Let's go.
I think joy and happiness and doing things you like is important.
My favorite thing is sports cards. When I'm not on YouTube, I am building my collection. And when I started, I wish there was a sports card strategy show.
He wasn't necessarily going to be a first-round pick before all this Heisman buzz. Now they're talking about him being a top 5 pick.
Paul Hickey and the team at nooffseason.com personally helped build my Jaden Daniels collection, and they're looking to do the same for you. Just check them out on social media or nooffseason.com. All right, so Brian Kelly said Chris Hilton was held out. I understand it, right? But if he felt that Chris Hilton really needed to play today for LSU to go on and win after they had given him a probable and he's dressed out for the first time, they would have played him. But one harsh reality about playing wide receiver at LSU is it is very easy to lose your role. Now, is Chris Hilton still going to have a role moving forward? Yes. Is South Alabama a really good game to get him acclimated to everything? Yes. Okay. Now, I understand, totally get it, that maybe this game time decision went in Brian Kelly's favor when he said, okay, maybe Chris isn't feeling as good. Maybe Chris told the staff, hey, I can't go. It might have been that. I don't know. There might have been something like that we don't know about. But the truth is, LSU's wide receiver room, while this isn't what most would consider a top 5 LSU wide receiver room of the modern era, it's still really good. It is still very, very, very freaking good. Okay. This would be what? How many wide receiver rooms in the SEC would you say are better than LSU's wide receiver room? I don't know. There's probably not many. I don't think that there is like a clear-cut number one. Obviously, with Ryan Williams at Alabama, he's developing into something. Georgia's receivers aren't any good. Tennessee has a good group of receivers. We'll see what they do tonight versus an actual defense. But LSU's wide receiver room without Chris Hilton has not been an issue. Now, is Chris faster than all the other receivers we have? He is. Has he been unfreaking believably productive in practices? Yes. Does he have a good rapport with Garrett Nussmeier? Yeah, they played a lot of football together. But he wasn't necessary today for LSU to win the game. You can win the game with a lot of different players, okay? But how does he fit in with the wide receiver rotation now? Maybe the LSU coaching staff says, okay, Kyle Parker made a ridiculous touchdown catch. Do we need to play him more? Remember, when Chris Hilton couldn't go for USC, Kyle Parker was his immediate replacement. Shelton Sampson was also open today, and Garrett Nussmeier missed him on a shallow drag. So the truth is, we don't know. We really, really, really don't know what all is actually happening here. But holy crap, this LSU wide receiver room is playing really well. Obviously not Kyron's best day with the drop. But CJ Daniels continues to play really well. And we continue to miss him. We continue to miss him. We missed him for 2 touchdowns today. He is the only person on the planet that should be complaining about Garrett Nussmeier right now. But CJ's a team player, and we're winning. Okay. There you go. Go fly. Go fly saw it too. I like that. What's up, J Red? Good to see you. What's up, man? So Jared is actually a stand-up that I used to do a lot of shows with. He was funnier than me. I actually talked to a strong mutual friend of Jared and I's, Josh Ogle, for an hour yesterday. He's a really good stand-up in LA. Better writer than he is stand-up, and that's really saying something. Okay. Apparently, Tennessee is doing Tennessee things. Now, Let's see here. Wait, did Notre Dame end up winning? Let's see. I know I've already answered that. Okay, let's see. What's up, Cliff? I know Cliff was at the game. Oh, please don't. Man, I put the wrong thing on the live stream again. So I'm live on my personal account, I think. Yeah, I did it. I'm such a freaking idiot. Let me fix this really quickly. And then we'll get to some Brian Kelly audio. Okay. Just got word that my parents are okay. It's too hot, man. AP said it ain't over yet. Let's see. Let me go through a few more of my notes here from this game. Okay. Oh, yeah. Let's talk about special teams. Wasn't really a special teams game. Okay. It really wasn't. No big special teams mistakes, though. The snaps were good. Obviously, Ramos was money with his field goal kicks. And kickoffs, everything were great. Kick returns, punt returns. Xavion was good again. Hoping he really, really, really pops one. So we'll see. I know, man. I'm such an idiot. Like, it's insane. Zach said we had that one good punt. Yeah, we should mention that as well. Punting was good on both sides today. It's a very good punt game. Slobodan Milosevic. Welcome to the channel, man, Slobodan. I love that name. Slob Almadan. Slob. I tried to make it work. Slob Banadan. Like corn on the cob. Speaking of corn, how about Nebraska choking yesterday? But a speedy, healthy recovery for Harold Perkins. Absolutely. Let's go. Dang, sure enough. UCLA got lucky on that punt that backed up at the 4. Dude's kick was flatter than my high school girlfriend. Hey, don't hate on flatness, man. Like, I'm a thick guy. But that's when it comes to my running backs. I don't mind flatness. I don't. Don't hate on the flatties. No hate. But that kick had a lot of spin. Oh, okay. So this is actually a really creative question from Hal. We ate a second half team. So we are a second half team. So why just we don't defer to the second half? What do I think? It's a good question. It's a really good question from the great Hal Jubin. Now, let me start off with saying with the second half defer stuff. Do I think LSU is better off deferring to the second half? I do think so. I really, really do think so. Deferring is overall a better outcome. All right. I prefer to defer. I do. But at the same time, okay, don't kill me for saying this. We have had overall good opening drives out of the gate. Okay, so USC opening drive, we take it right down the field and we just couldn't punch it in. Nicholls State, our opening drive sucked. Okay, it did, but all the other drives in the first half were good. And then in this game again, a workman-like, really good opening drive for a touchdown. Okay, so maybe we should keep receiving. One other thing, and this is also very anecdotal. I have noticed that teams that receive to start the second half struggle with scoring points on that opening possession of the second half. I don't know why that's the case. I really, really, really don't. It has never really made sense to me. Now, that could just be noise. But I think some of it is the defense is just a lot more well-rested. The highest scoring quarters I feel in football are second quarters because the defense gets tired, right? So I don't know. I could just be spitballing here. All right. I finish this. I'll get to this next super. It's going to go flat. Do you think we have the talent to compete defensively in the SEC? Kelly said at half that defense wasn't executing. I don't know if our DBs can cover. All right. So let's get into defensive philosophy. What exactly is defense and what is it in the modern era? All right. So you take a look at the first LSU national championship team. With all due respect to Matt Mock, that was a defensive team. That's probably the best LSU defense ever. 2011 has a case, but it just was. It was just such a great defense, right? And now offenses are so good that it's tough to win with just just dominating defense. You got to be able to move the football. Okay. So now that the offenses are so good and the rules are so heavily favored for the offenses, so much of what you do defensively comes down to who you play. So GoFly has a very interesting way of phrasing this question. Can we compete defensively in the SEC? And the answer to that is unequivocally yes. And I'm going to give you a few reasons as to why. Sometimes in life, in the world of college football in particular, it's not who you play, but when you play them. So let's take a look at when Arkansas plays the best offenses left on their schedule. And the three best offenses left on Arkansas's, or I say LSU schedule, is Ole Miss, Arkansas, and Alabama. Okay. Oklahoma's offense was not good. And they've already thrown a pick tonight. Vanderbilt is Vanderbilt. Diego Pavia is interesting, though. Florida's offense had a really good day today, but it's Florida's offense. We'll see who their quarterback is. We'll see if they even have their coach. Mississippi State's terrible. So all three of the back-loaded offenses here aren't good. Now we'll see what Texas A&M does with Marcel Reed. Does Connor Wigman get his job back? I don't know. So defensively, it comes down almost as much as to who you play compared to your own defensive talent. So let's take the LSU defense versus USC. USC had a weird day today. I haven't watched the tape yet. So do we really know how good USC's offense is? I don't know. Weird game. But Michigan did win today, by the way. So what does that mean for the LSU defense? Can they get better during SEC play? Well, what we do know is the two best offenses left on LSU's schedule by far are Ole Miss and Alabama. You get both of those games at home. You get both of those games after a bye week. All right. Now, are we going to get lit up by Arkansas and Texas A&M in their building? Yes, because they are really they're really talented at skill positions. All right. Arkansas's probably got the best running back left on our schedule in Jaquinda Jackson. A&M's, of course, got really good skill guys. They always do. And, Milroe, Jam Miller, and Alabama, they're talented. So our defense is probably going to get lit up a few times. But if Garrett Nussmeier continues playing at the level that we expect him to, can LSU still find a way into the playoff? Yes. Now, one thing I will say is there's actually been quite a few of you that are concerned about South Alabama next week, as you should be. South Alabama has kind of become the in vogue team because they have put up a lot of points recently. We'll see what they do next week versus an actual team. Let's go to Tiger Boy Luck. I know Les was bad defensively, but our teams are physical. Ever since he left and Dave Aranda left, we have just gotten soft with no killer instinct. You are correct, right? The Les Miles years were actually good defensively. I don't think anyone would disagree with that. And a lot of that has to do with, a lot of the great players we had, right? Dante Jackson obviously helps. Jamal Adams helps. All those guys are great players. Trey White, Quan Alexander, Benny Logan. I mean, there's a gazillion. Patrick Peterson. We have really good players. But it was different then. Take a look at a lot of the teams that we played and go back and actually chart who their quarterbacks were. The quarterback play wasn't good. All right, so we played a lot of bad quarterbacks. A lot of archaic offenses, if you will. And we also played a ground and pound style where we weren't playing as many plays per game, if that makes sense. Okay? So, you are right. Dave Aranda is probably the best defensive coordinator we've ever had at LSU. Ends up being Blake Baker. We do lack a killer instinct, but today that was not the case. We came out and dominated the second half of the game versus UCLA. Let's go. I'm getting more of this here, okay? Because part of why, I'm not the – you guys come here for football breakdowns, all right? I feel like I can break this down from so many different angles in terms of trenches or whatever. But what I cannot comment on are the people that were actually at the game. So I want to go to Gilson. Everybody welcome Gilson to the channel. Really good profile photo. This is obviously at a wedding. That cake looks really good. They had not cut the cake yet. And Gilson was already in button-down mode, top button, unbutton. He was ready to party. Good photo, Gilson. Good question. Or actually, good point. Actually, a bad point, but it's a very important point for our discussion. 70-plus people in medical condition at this game. You also got to remember, they're sitting in metal seats. All right, so not only are you sitting, there's nothing there to cool the seats. So a lot of people are wearing shorts, and the metal is probably burning their skin. And if it's not burning their skin, I bet you it doesn't feel good. So welcome to the channel, Gilson. Let's go. LSU defense has zero swagger. Okay. That is true. And there were a lot of people that were swagged out then. Now, full disclosure, before I say the following, I, like you, have a romantic relationship with those eras of LSU defenses, right? Goes from the early 2000s to 2019, basically. All right. Some of it is due to the offensive change of some of the bad defenses. But before we get into like a deeper philosophical debate, okay, one thing I would say, and I don't talk to the current team as much as I did when I actually lived in Baton Rouge and lived in the same apartment, like pavilions a lot of athletes lived in, right? And that's where I became friends with Ron Brooks, who I talked to recently, and I reconnected with Patrick Peterson and Michael Brockers and all of that. And I knew those guys. I could talk to them, just in passing or whatever. One thing that a lot of those guys had, they had a very deep understanding of the game. Like, they really understood what the hell they were supposed to do. Okay? So there's two different dichotomies going on. Those guys were not only confident, not only did those guys look good, feel good, play good was a lot of the motto of the DBU era and all that stuff. But a lot of those guys really knew football. Like, they took it very seriously. Now, if you listen to Brandon Taylor in interviews, he would tell you that the 2011 team would freelance plays on defense. That's how good they were. They would go against what the play call was from Chavis. But the reason why they could do that is because it's kind of the way they played defense was a lot like how a soccer team plays. All right. And for those that don't know anything about soccer, I'll use this analogy. Okay. So an outside defender in soccer sometimes actually becomes the most important person on an attack. Right. So in order to do, in order for a defensive player to move up the field and become an attacker, someone has to scoot back and take their space, right? That's why I always talk about John Battle. John Battle was really good at that, being on those 2014, 2015, 2016, 2017 defenses. He was really good at just keeping everyone in order, right? And filling in for other players, right? And it's just an understanding, right? If this guy moves here, I need to do this now. If this guy moves here, I need to do this. Now, in favor of them, there wasn't the same formational diversity. The offensive players were skilled, but they're not like the way they are now. The play callers are better. And pre-snap motion really wasn't as prevalent then as it is now on all levels. So it was a little bit easier to do some of the stuff that they did. But it just seems now that our LSU defensive players struggle with processing information. Now, I will tell you this. It is extremely hard to process in blistering heat, but obviously a lot of our defensive performances weren't in blistering heat. It's really hard to do this. It's really freaking hard, okay? Because of a word called conflict. Now, conflict has always existed with defenses, right? But with the RPO world that we live in now, a lot of edge linebackers, second level outside linebackers, and safeties, they are put in what offensive and defensive coordinators called conflict positions, right? Which the conflict defender is just whoever you're reading on the play. So if I'm running a zone read, oftentimes the conflict defender is going to be the defensive end, or I'm deciding whether or not to hand it off. Okay. So conflict makes defense even harder. Now, all of those excuses aside, we do not play smart defense. We just do not play smart defense. Whether it comes to coverages or whether it comes to like how you go about tackling somebody. Like, for instance, Major Burns got ran over in the flat today. He stuck his head down in the open field. The tight end stuck his head down, and they both probably really hurt themselves, but they played through it. And that's not how you want to tackle in that situation, right? If you're a safety and you're going up against a tight end, you need to cut his legs. You're not going to win a forced battle. You're just not, unless you're just completely catching him as he's going upfield, right? You've got to be smarter. So like individual, like one-on-one situations, when it comes to contained responsibilities, I could go on and on. We really struggle. And a lot of times these are split-second decisions. They are really, 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 really hard to deal with, okay? You've got to be able to make those decisions. You just do. You just do. Okay? So Bayou Bengals believes they're just weak. They might be. You know, and to that point, Bayou Bengal, I did speak to a prominent player. None of them, or it was none of the people I just named a minute ago, full disclosure. But I did speak to a prominent player recently, and he's obviously of yesteryear. He was from that era that we were talking about. And he is worried about mentality. He is worried about soft and all that stuff. Okay? Is that a case? Is that the case? I don't know. I really, really, really don't know. I don't like calling any football player soft, though. I just don't. But I will say a prominent former player felt that way. Okay? So take that for what it's worth. Okay? Now, let's get to some Brian Kelly audio. This is via our friends at LSU Tiger Bait. Shout out Preston. Shout out Mike Scarborough and the crew over there. They're awesome people. They do really good stuff. So here's Brian Kelly after the game.
You know, we got off to a better start. I mean, I think that's where I would start is what's that? Yeah, don't worry about them. They're not going to quiet down. They won the game. Let them celebrate. You don't need to hear from me. We'll talk over them. They got off to a much better start. I mean, I think we made a case in point how important it was to get off to a better start. You know, obviously the great drive to start. And then we made, you know, too many mistakes on the ensuing UCLA drive, which were maddening. But all of their points in the first half were just mistakes that are all correctable mistakes, and we corrected them in the second half and played, you know, really well in the second half. Controlled the second half. I think we had 2 drives that were 90-plus drives. I think that's Hadn't done that here in, over 20 years. So over 20 years. Who's been here for over 20 years? Yeah, you guys don't, you raise your hand, but you don't know. I'm giving you the information for the first time because you guys act like you've been here for 20 years. No, I knew it. I knew it. Anyway, those two drives obviously, were key in terms of, just setting the tone for the game. We controlled the line of scrimmage and, ran the football, threw it, had some key third down conversions. And then defensively, we got off the field. We had the key sack and drove them out of field goal range and played complimentary football. So wish we were cleaner in the first half. The mistakes are maddening. We got to clean them up. We're going to continue to work. No, those are the guys we got. There's nobody getting traded. We're not, those are the guys we're going to work with, and we're going to just keep coaching them. And we're going to keep working with them, and they're going to turn the corner in terms of listening and trusting. And we're going to keep working on how to put them in a better position as coaches and get ready for South Alabama. But it was a good win, and pleased with the group in terms of the way they started. So with that, we'll open up the questions.
Coach, how's Harold Perkins?
He's injured. We don't know. I mean, we'll do all the diagnostic testing tonight and tomorrow, and we'll have a better answer for you when we do our presser on Monday.
And with Mason Taylor, he's been, I guess, a very consistent security blanket for you guys offensively. How important is it to have a guy like him?
Yeah, nobody talked about him coming into the season. I thought he was unheralded. You guys didn't talk about him. The national media didn't talk about him. Now you guys start talking about him because he's the all-time leading receiver in LSU history. And now all of a sudden you want to talk about Mason Taylor. Where were you guys talking about him earlier in the season? You were talking about everybody else but Mason Taylor. So now he's the leading receiver you want to talk about. I don't want to talk about him.
Coach, in the first half, you went into the locker room at 17-17, and in the second half, your defense clamped down and shut them out in the second half. What changes did your defense make?
They didn't make any changes. They executed the defenses that were called, and execution is attention to detail, doing your job. DYJ. Do your job. That's an acronym. DYJ. And they just, we need to do our job, and they did it in the second half. And if we just continue to do our job on defense in particular, now offensively we had some key drops, right? I mean, we got to catch the football and we got to make, the timely calls offensively. We got to coach it. But doing our job on defense was the biggest difference from the first half to the second half.
Coach, right here. You talk about Savion Jones and Braden Swinson. I know the front seven played well, throughout the game. But what do those guys give you, and how has Coach Peoples just really unlocked their pass rush moves?
Well, I think that a lot of credit should go to Coach Peoples and his ability to teach the technique necessary for two different kinds of players. Swinson's 238, 240 pounds if he eats and takes all his supplements like he's supposed to each week, which sometimes doesn't happen. But we stay on him to make sure he does that. He'll be in here in a little bit, and he can comment on that to ask him about him taking his supplements and making sure that he eats all the time. But my point being is that's a guy who's a lot lighter, and then you have a 275-pound defensive end. They are clearly different players, and he's been able to take two different players with different skill sets and give them the ability to pass rush and using different techniques. I think he's done a terrific job. And both those guys have too. Let's face it. It takes two to tango. Both those guys have really worked their craft and have been extremely coachable. And we're starting to see those efforts come to fruition.
Coach, apparently there were a number of fans who needed medical attention, and that side of the stadium is tough for those fans with the sun and everything. Do you have any thoughts on day games in September here in the South?
My comments would be, the TV schedule is something that I have no control over. I'm sure our administration gets a chance to weigh in. we would prefer, later games. But, we're beholden to what, the national audience is. So, I mean, that's the best I can do. I feel bad. I hope everybody is okay. I did see visually that there weren't many people in the stands over there because the sun is obviously pounding on them. So, I don't know what the plans are. I know Kelly's in is here. She probably can give you a little bit more information on the retractable roof that we're talking about. Or maybe not. She can field questions about that later. No, I'm kidding. There's no retractable roof, but yours is a serious matter, and I get it. But I really don't have much say on that in terms of the games.
Brian, you talked about the progress from one half to the second. Are you comfortable with the progress 4 games into this season that your team is making?
Yeah, I mean, look, we've played 3 out of 4 teams that are Power 4, Power 4, Power 5, conferences, however you want to put it. I don't want to disrespect any of the conferences, but it's been a process for us, in terms of, I think we found our stride in terms of what we want to do offensively. I think we saw that today. We did some really good things defensively. The difference is we're pressuring, we're getting turnovers, we're doing some really good things defensively. And then it's just maddening some of the silly mistakes that we're making on defense that just have to go away as we get, we're going to get a really good South Alabama team in there. Major Applewhite's originally from this area. He's going to have that football team raring to go. And, we saw how hard Nicholls State played. South Alabama has got a lot of talent. They got some young players that are really good. We got to be ready for that football team. And then we get into, the meat of the schedule. So, we've made some improvements, but we got a ways to go. So continuing to develop our football team so we do the little things the right way. There's enough talent out here to contend for an SEC championship. We got to clean up the little mistakes.
Already talked about finding something offensively. It seems like a lot of that's Garrett, especially on those 2 really long drives. Did he show you anything else, or was really just that the recipe for y'all offensively moving forward, kind of putting the ball in his hands?
Well, it certainly is. The quarterback is this, the straw that stirs every drink in college football in terms of, anybody that you're talking about that is an outstanding football program, you're going to start talking about the quarterback first. You're not talking about him last. So Garrett NUSSMEIER is that guy for us, but he has a supporting cast. I think he has a really good offensive line. I think they keep him clean. I think they keep him protected. I think they allow him to do his job. I mean, he certainly has areas to grow. I think we've got to get better in the run game recognition. I think that our receivers are showing some signs. Chris was, a game time decision that we didn't, play him because we didn't see that he added enough to what we wanted to do. We thought that, we could get it from other areas. And so, there's another guy that we expect back maybe next week, full go, where we can get another vertical threat, those weapons. And then again, you're seeing, the backs all running better, and Caden Durham obviously catching the ball out of the backfield and with his speed breaking away and making a big play. So he's got the weapons necessary, but he is the guy that makes it happen. Absolutely.
Aaron Anderson.
All right, so we'll take a look at the final 3. I'm ready to go now. Okay. It's going to go fly. He says, we bring up a good point. We've played a tougher schedule than most so far. Agreed. Well, actually, let me see. I'll challenge you, and I'll get into a few other Brian Kelly things here in just a second. So has LSU played a tougher schedule than most? Where is my schedule matrix? Oh, please don't tell me I deleted my schedule matrix. That's my dear beloved schedule matrix. The prophecy is fulfilled. My schedule matrix has been deleted. I can't believe I did that. What kind of rookie mistake is that? Well, I'll pull this up. We'll go ahead and finish the rest of Brian Kelly. So it worked out. All right, so here's BK. A few more questions here, once again, via Tiger Bait.
got involved early in this game. Just your thoughts on his performance today.
He's been consistent for us, a consistent ball catcher, a guy that's been one that I think has made steady improvement. He had a bad, lock up with his back on Wednesday where he couldn't practice at all. And really proud of the way he fought through it, practiced a little bit on Thursday, and then just did all the right things to get himself in the right mindset to play here on Saturday. So really proud of Aaron's development, both on and off the field, where he can come in and overcome, a back that kind of locked up on him and come up and make an impact on Saturday.
Brian, if Harold isn't able to go next week or potentially even longer, how do you guys help the guys around him not allow that to be something that really factors into how they play? Obviously, with him being a big piece, a leader on that side of the ball, how do you not allow that to get them down?
Yeah, we've got great leaders with Greg Penn. We hope he's okay, but we've got Greg Penn. We've got Whit Weeks. West will be back next week, which he's played really good football for us. So we can still stay in our Buffalo package. We can go back into our dime package, dropping Major down. So we've got a lot of options there. We hope he's okay. We hope he's back for us. But we'll be able to move into other packages that resemble what we've been doing.
Yeah, you guys have improved your run game a lot since the beginning of the season.
Thank you. I think you're the only one that realizes that, other than the 800 million people that want us to run it better. But thank you.
Can you just talk to me a little bit about what's changed for you guys in that aspect?
I just think opportunity, and I think our backs are seeing it better. Part of the running game is the comfortability of those backs to really see holes and make some people miss. And again, that's not a veteran group, other than Josh. Those are young players that are, gradually coming into their own. And I think, it was difficult to run today. I don't know if you guys watched the game at all. If you did, you saw backers up all day, crowding the line of scrimmage, making it very difficult, but they gave us the ability to throw the ball. I don't know, what did we throw for, 350? When you're throwing for 350, plus, it means the box is loaded and it's hard to run it. But we still found a way when it was time to run the ball, especially down by the goal line. We exerted our will, and that was what we did. And thanks again for the running question. We don't get many of those around here, which is crazy, but thank you.
BK did get a little, I wouldn't say snippy, but a little sarcastic in this press conference. Okay. All right. So let's go to GoFly's super chat here. Has LSU's schedule been one of the tougher ones on the season? I would say so. I would, you obviously have two teams that have had, week 4 bye in Georgia and Alabama. LSU played 3 Power 4 teams in the first 4 weeks. A lot of teams have only played 2. 2 of these games LSU has played has been away from Tiger Stadium. 2 of these games have been played in the heat as well. Blistering heat, might add. So, yeah, compared to the rest of the SEC, LSU has had it harder, if not the hardest opening schedule in the SEC. Okay. Now that I look at it, yeah, I guess you would say LSU's had the toughest schedule. Now, you would prefer, of course, to be 4-0, but you lost a game that you probably should have won versus USC, and you won a game you probably should have lost versus South Carolina. So you'll take that. Would you prefer the win over USC compared to South Carolina? Probably so, because it would look a little bit more impressive, but USC lost today. So you're 4-1. You're probably going to be 5-1 after next week. And a somewhat reasonable chance to go to the playoff. Now, do I think they're going to go to the playoff? Probably not. Right? This is a team with a lot of holes. The Arkansas game became a lot more losable today. I as Arkansas had a very impressive road victory versus a flawed Auburn team. A&M is just going to be difficult, right? Preseason, that was the only game where you were underdogs. You'll probably still be underdogs in that game. And you'll probably be slight favorites versus Ole Miss, depending on how the South Alabama game goes. Okay? So has this been the most difficult first 4 weeks? Yeah. Yeah. So, yes, it was a trash show. I was actually watching both games at the same time because those are two of the teams I cover on the SEC channel pretty closely, and I didn't want to do like a full rewatch. So I mostly watch the LSU game on one screen, watch the Auburn game on this iPad, and there was a lot of INTs. I wasn't able to watch as much. Anthony, good to see you. Chance is right. You know, watch out for Vandy. I mean, look, that game's going to be at home. And on top of that, Vanderbilt does get a weird, and I mean weird, late bye week before they go to Baton Rouge. Okay. That's going to be their Super Bowl. And if they had won today, that might have been the game that would have decided their bowl eligibility, especially considering Tennessee is around the corner. We'll see what happens in this game versus Oklahoma, but Tennessee's a better team than us this year. They just are. So, you know, they know they're going to get their ass kicked by Tennessee. So, you know, they might look at that LSU game as their final hurrah. Even if they're at only 4 wins, they're going to really go into it. So there you go. Now, here's what you're going to do. In the next 10 to 15 minutes, I'm going to answer as many questions as we possibly can. But if you super chat, we'll keep it going all night long. Yeah, he just changed his name, Stacy. Okay, let me show you this. I want you to see this right here. And this guy might be the real freaking deal. I know it's ULM. But watch his throw from March Manning. I'll probably do an SEC breakdown on him tonight. Okay. Make sure I have this at the right speed. Okay. Got this from Arch. Is watch him spin the ball here. You'll see him spin the ball in his hands. He did that a lot in like his pre-workouts for Clemson years ago. Look at this ball location right here to Isaiah Bond there in the deep post. Obviously, safety shouldn't get beat over the top, but Bond, the NFL receiver, you got to keep your feet here. There's no reason for him to dive unless he got tripped up by that DB and we couldn't really see it. No, Arch is good, man. He's good. Wait, TCU's losing 66-42? What kind of game? The iron skillet. I did see that TCU's coach was thrown out of the game. Shout out to PHL viewer Kevin. He said he stayed for the whole game. And he was like, I've sat with Kevin in his seats before. That's hot as hell. That's true, Anthony. That is true. Let's go show enough. Okay. I'm not going to say, all right, it's going to sound very suspect. All right. But Show Enough is sending me something I thought I would never actually receive in my life. Like, my wife is excited about it, though. Now, that sounds very sketchy. That sounds very sketchy. And I told him to give me a call because he did not have to do this. And he's not called me yet. But that's what you get in the PHL Discord. You get extra content. Now, it sounds very sketch. But he says this team reminds him of 2013 LSU. Solid offense with a defense that struggles. That makes sense. You know, look. We all remember that Georgia game in 2013, right? And for our youngins, that was one of the best LSU games ever, even though we lost. Versus Aaron Murray, T-Bob's co-host. And it was a shootout, and we just couldn't make a stop there at the end. Mettenberger went off. Jarvis Landry had a ridiculous game. Kadron Boone, that's a deep cut. Ocala, Florida, stand up. Had a big game. Blank, thank you for the super chat. You get the next question. Okay. Solid offense with the defense that struggles. Yeah, I mean, it's pretty fair. It's pretty fair. Okay. Here's Mr. Turt. He says, I don't think Nuss is good enough to carry the defense a lot. I don't know, man. I don't know. Because, I mean, he did it versus Wisconsin. You know, Garrett Nussmeier has 2 victories already trailing by double digits. He's not had a game yet where his defense has put away the opposition. Okay. Until today. And even then, the game was still mostly competitive. And I understand there's going to be a big focus on the LSU defense making some really good second half stops. But it was aided by a really bad punt decision and a really dumb penalty. Okay. So I do think the LSU defense, anytime you pitch a shutout in a half, when you had a bad half the half before, it's a good thing. We'll take it. Romeo Damas says we would be 3-0 with Jaden Daniels or 4-0. I mean, yeah, but I just think that's a very disingenuous comparison, right? You're taking first-year Garrett Nussmeier. Is first-year Garrett Nussmeier up to this point better than first-year Jaden Daniels? Is first-year Garrett Nussmeier better than first-year Joe Burrow? I'll let you be the judge on that. I'm not saying that necessarily means second-year Garrett Nussmeier is going to be better than second-year Burrow or second-year Jaden. That's probably not going to happen. Okay. Actually, I feel pretty confident that that's not going to happen. But let's be real here. Garrett is playing unfreaking believably well. And if your comment is, well, what would be undefeated if Jaden was a quarterback? That still doesn't alleviate the defensive issues, right? You know, Jaden played as good of a game as a quarterback could play versus Alabama and Ole Miss, and he still lost, all right? There are plenty of people that are national college football reporters who was watching that LSU-Alabama game last year. And what did a lot of those people say? Well, they said, I'll lay it out for you here. They said, make sure I get this right. This is Spencer Hall of Every Day Should Be Saturday. He said after one half of watching Jaden Daniels versus Nick Saban, he said, this is the best a quarterback has ever played versus a Nick Saban defense. He said ever. That includes Joe Burrow. That includes Johnny Manziel. Obviously, we couldn't get it done, but those guys got some defensive stops. Jaden got 0, basically. So just because you have so-and-so a quarterback doesn't mean you're for sure going to win, right? We don't beat Alabama if we didn't have Patrick Queen. We don't beat Clemson if we didn't have Patrick Queen. You know, he was big in both of those games for us. So it's yeah. So I know you're saying like you're more so making a comment about how great Jaden was. And look, I'm all about it. You know, Jaden is everybody's probably second favorite player ever. You know, he's one of my favorites. He's one of everyone's favorites. But what we're seeing right now from Gary Nussmeier is truly unfreaking believable. Now, do I think he is seeing everything well? Not necessarily. There was a few questionable first half decisions that he made. But I just really can't, you know, every quarterback has that. I mean, every single quarterback has that. So, yeah, I mean, it's pretty ridiculous how well he's playing. Garrett doesn't take sacks. He doesn't take sacks. It's ridiculous. This is a guy who doesn't run, but also doesn't take sacks. He is still in his career. And I would guess he probably had close to 50 dropbacks today. Let me see here. He had 44 dropbacks today, 44 pass attempts. Okay, that makes sense. Now, that makes it 400 dropbacks in his career. 400 dropbacks. He has never had a single rush versus a Power 5 team for positive yards. So he is doing all of this without a running game and a personal running game. It truly is amazing. It truly is amazing. Okay. Now, can that stuff catch up to you? Yeah, it can. You know, everyone was talking about USC's defense, D'Anton Lynn, and what he did to us. Well, they didn't look good versus Michigan, who could not throw. Michigan threw 12 pass attempts today. Their quarterback threw for like 40 yards, and they won today. They were still able to move the ball, run the ball. So how good was that USC defense? I don't know. Have we even played a really good defense up to this point? It's kind of early to really tell, right? With, you know, South Carolina, we knew they have a good front. How good is their secondary? I don't know. But I could think we can comfortably say that USC's defense and South Carolina's defenses aren't terrible. I think we could both comfortably say that. And I don't think UCLA's defense is just downright terrible. 20 is a good player. I don't think they're great. It's crazy. Let's go to Blanche. Oh, okay. So, look, my God texted me. Let's go, dude. Appreciate it, man. I still can't believe this. I guess I'll wait and reveal it. All right. So I'll just reference this. I was blown away. All right. This is going to be a fun lead up. I can't wait till you actually send it. So there's this new phenomenon that's taken over LSU fandom, but it's taken over all SEC fandom. And I won't say what it is until I actually test this thing. But it cost, when I actually look at it as a whole, if you were to change your entire lifestyle to be around this thing, it cost you over $500 minimum. Okay. Probably closer to $1,000. I couldn't believe the cost of this item. So apparently, this item has to be the best thing ever. So out of nowhere, one of our loyalists of loyal viewers, I'll put him back up on the screen. Okay. He's also our last super chatter here. Well, he wasn't. Blaine super chatted. Sure enough, JW said, I'm going to send you one. I was, when I tell you, I was floored. And don't say it, show enough. Don't say it. Some of our Discordians probably know what it is, but don't say it. Okay. Let's go to Joshua. Hey, Carter, do you know what has ruined the defense since 2019? That's a good question. Let's dive into it. All right. The first thing is LSU had an extremely bad run of luck on the players they recruited. So many of them just were not good football players. And I'm talking about good blue chip, top 50, top 100 guys. Also, Ed Orgeron had a pretty drastic philosophy change, and that screwed us up. Then we had so many different position coaches, DCs, and all of it. Bo Pelini in and out. Obviously, Durante Jones in and out. 5 different defensive line coaches in 5 years since 2019. I mean, there's a lot of that. We also had a lot of position coaches who were not ready to be position coaches at that point in their careers. Okay. I mean, there's a lot of different things. I also think we got rid, and I won't say who this is, but we got rid of a really good position coach too quick. Okay. There's a gazillion things that you can point to. Okay. But one thing is, when you change the way you play offense, it changes the way you play defense. So there's a benefit of toss dive offense, right? You're playing at a slower pace. When you offensively aren't scoring as many points, that forces the opposing team's offense to not be as aggressive. They subjectively don't be as aggressive as they were if, Joe Burrow opened up a can of whoop ass early in the game, right? So, for instance, let's take 2019 LSU versus Ole Miss, and there's a whole different subculture of things that happened in that game, back-to-back road games, all those things. Part of what made Ole Miss so good offensively in that game is that we were up to a 21-0 lead, right? So our defense becomes softer and their offense becomes more aggressive, right? It gets into a different kind of philosophy last week. Let's just say the Eagles versus the Falcons game. Our lower scoring game, the Eagles kicked a field goal to go up 6, right? So by going up 6, a lot of people in the analytic communities believe going up 6 is worse than just being up 3, because what they have found is offensive teams are more than likely to be more aggressive being up or being down 6 because they know they have to score a touchdown, instead of just playing it a little bit more conservatively, playing for overtime and kicking a long field goal that can get blocked or just be missed. And the Falcons have a good field goal kicker, but whatever. So LSU offensively has just gotten better. And when you play a more passing attack, you're just going to score more points. And that in turn makes games more track meaty, right? Your defense can get lighter. You play softer coverages when you have a big lead. There's a lot of different things. A lot. All right. A lot of things that you can point to. But do I think this is going to start regressing? Towards a positive? Yes. Now, why do I think that? Well, for this reason. LSU had so many just bad top 100 recruits. I feel a lot of the 4-star defensive players in this class are actually going to be good players. I think at this point, Deshaun Spears looks like he's going to be someone. Hopefully, Dominic McKinley can build off of what we saw today. Okay. Ashton Stamps looks like a 3-star gem. Okay. So there's a lot of these 3-star guys that have looked okay up to this point, and there's a lot of 4-star defensive players that look like they have some real juice. All right, what Weeks is only in year 2, and so on and so on. So looks like we have more blue chip guys that will end up being better for us. But we'll see. We'll see. Oh, I hate that. I hate the injuries. Good to see Sherry Berry in here. Sherry, give me your thoughts on the game. Okay. Jay Smock says I don't know ball. Yeah, King. And like one thing that pisses me off is like the whole national media surrounding Jaden last year. We didn't have any Heisman moments. Did you watch the Ole Miss game? Did you watch the Alabama game? I know we lost. But how do you not say those were Heisman moments? This was also cool today. Gary Nussmeier's dad was able to attend the LSU game. He's a quarterback coach for the Eagles. They're playing the Saints in New Orleans tomorrow. Let's see here. Goodness gracious. When is someone going to bring up Ryan Gravenbach's performance for Liverpool this morning? No one's going to bring that up? Is it only going to be me? Am I going to be the only one that goes out on a limb? Let's see. All right, so this is a message that comes in via Twitter from Evan. It says, Carter, what needs to happen for us to play all our games at night? All right. So, first thing, there's always going to be people that leave early of competitive games. I was at the LSU Arkansas game. A lot of people left early. Okay. So, it's kind of a double-edged sword. So, the LSU Arkansas game started off very hot last year. It was a mixture of a lot of weird things. So, you had the 6 p.m. kickoff for LSU Arkansas last year. It was blistering hot when you got into the stadium. And then on top of that, not only was it hot, you also had the night game aspect of it where people don't want to be in traffic until 3 in the morning. Okay. Whatever the case may be. So if it's too hot and people are still leaving, but you still have a competitive night game versus an SEC team for a trophy, might I add, people leave early still to beat the traffic. Okay. Do I think the night games for LSU is a better solution? Yeah, I think so. Having permanent night games at Tiger Stadium. But that's not what we agreed to when we signed the ESPN deals. Or when the SEC is. When you're part of the conference that signs the deals and the television networks decide what time you're going to play, if they tell you you got to not only not play the game in Tiger Stadium, but we're going to pay you to play a game in Qatar, and it'd be 150 degrees, guess what? Everybody's going to be jumping on planes. to Qatar. All right, it's just how it works. Whoever's paying gets to decide. So, are we really going to get preferential treatment when LSU is not the only place where games are going to be hot? Florida fans will say, hey, it gets hot down here too. We want all our games to be played at night. Swamp's better at night. So why should LSU fans get preferential treatment? Well, we're Tiger Stadium. Everybody wants to come here at night. Fans want to experience the night game experience. UCLA fans, they deal with hot California weather all the time. They wanted to go to Tiger Stadium and see the night game. And I get that. But here's where we have to be really rational. And someone actually did run the numbers here. We have by far the fewest 11 a.m. kickoffs. By far. Not only on home games, but just in general. We only, for sure, have one 11 a.m. kickoff this year, and it's already happened. Okay, do you know how many teams wishes that they could avoid 11 a.m. kickoffs altogether? We don't have a single 11 a.m. home kickoff this year. Now, obviously, we have some afternoons, as we saw today. But we have already gotten the benefit of the doubt on this. It's part of why I defended when, a lot of people were pissed off, including Tennessee fans, when the game was put at 11 a.m. I was like, man, we've gotten the benefit of the doubt with this. So I do agree it's safer for a hotter state like Louisiana to have all the games at night. But I don't know if I agree with saying, hey, let's just let LSU have their own thing. And by the way, I understand it was blistering hot today. Okay. But let's not act like there aren't fans out there that actually prefer the day games. Okay. There are a lot of LSU fans that work nights and they get to go to a day game. It's a lot more plausible. Okay. Another thing about a day game. Let's say money is tight for you, which it is for a lot of people. Okay. Huge benefit of the game being kicked off at 2 is you can plausibly, let's just say you're in Monroe, Ruston. You get up at 6 in the morning, 7 or 8 to be generous. Get to Baton Rouge at noon, 1 or whatever. You get into the stadium by kickoff. And let's say you leave the stadium at 5:30 or 6 or whatever. Get to your car, 20, 30 minutes. So you're leaving Baton Rouge at 6:30. Hour and a half of traffic. You're leaving out of Baton Rouge, out of the traffic, let's just say 8:30. 4-hour drive back. You're getting in at midnight. That is a plausible day trip. Now, is it an exhausting day trip? Yeah, but you could do that. You cannot plausibly do that with the night game. Now, I know some people do, but it's preposterous, honestly, if you're thinking about doing that. You got to find somewhere to stay. So I understand that a lot of us want all our home games to be at night, but there is a huge benefit of having day games. It opens yourself up to people that normally can't go to games. Okay. I don't think that's too crazy of a statement. I still think Kyron's better than CJ, but all around receiver, you can make a case. Jason, please go drink lava. You're right. Aaron Anderson has had a really good day. He's been consistent. He's had at least 55, 60 yards in all games. Hadn't had a 100-yard game, but he's still been pretty good. Yeah, simply, I don't know. I don't know how I feel about. Yeah, Brian Kelly did get a little sarcastic with me. I don't know. I don't know. Gabe has actually watched more CJ Daniels than anyone because he's actually a fan of the Liberty Flames. And that's the funny thing about CJ is he is the best goal ball receiver on this team, and we've not yet hit him on that route. That's how he feasted at Liberty. Now, what's the running back for South Alabama? He's got a weird name. What is it? Fluff? That's his name? Fluff? Are we really going to get beat by somebody named Fluff next week? Fluff was also Tiger Woods' caddy. So here's something I I didn't know. Okay. So this is one of my friends, Adam. He says, he tweeted out, Arizona is not allowed to have pre-6 p.m. kickoffs. So Arizona has a bill that bans pre-6 p.m. kickoffs. I did not know that. So, but I mean, you've already signed these television contracts. I mean, how do you go about doing it? If I'm watching on TV, I do prefer the 2 p.m. kick. If I'm watching on TV, I do prefer the 2 p.m. kick. Let's see. This is a good question from Ben. He says, is Florida now a tougher team because they look good today? I don't know. I mean, Mississippi State's bad. Mm. God, dude, I'm looking at all these freaking. Dude, mm. The people cooked. I'm still reading. I don't know. I don't know, Luke. I would say pretty comfortably he's not going to play next week, though. I would be shocked if they wasted serious injury on playing versus a crazy good team, a crazy not so good team. God, people freaking cooked like eggs. Now, I'll take a few more here. I want to give big thanks to our top super chatter, Sibley, coming in hot. Show enough, Go Fly, Tiger Boy, Show enough, and Blanche. DJ Pickett at the game today. Wait, I just saw this. Why did UCLA warm up in all black? That's insane to me. That's true, Sibley. One extra play. That's one way to look at it. But then you can also say South Carolina was one dumb penalty away from pulling away from us. Now, big thanks to our friends at NOPOD. Big thanks to our friends at the NoOffSeason.com network. Big thanks to our friends at Zion Imaging and the 360 Spin Booth Experience. Film study will be up tomorrow night. Will air. I will not re-edit it just for some random intentional grounding call that I picked up in the South Carolina game. It will air roughly at 7 p.m. Sometimes putting out a big file, uploading could be an issue, but we will have it out tomorrow. It is Power Hour LSU. Boom. Welcome to the channel, D Rivers. You're all right. JVR did have his best game. And tonight, I don't know what we're doing. I think we're doing pizza. NOPOD. Slank. Get it right, bro. And tonight we are doing. And you missed Casey, of you of all people, you missed the Ryan Gravenbach comment. You missed it. I made one Liverpool joke and nobody got it. Well, I think two people did. Tonight we are doing, well, whatever. Calzones. Let's go.